Seahawks, Cowboys recap. Week 13 preview. Let's get it.
Welcome to FaZe Fantasy Live with your host, Lonnie Z.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is FaZe Fantasy Live, and I am your host, Lonnie Z. I'm flying solo today. My buddy Jake is out with the family, and I hope he's having a wonderful, wonderful time tonight. Much needed time away from this podcast. Trust me. So we're going to talk about what happened on Thursday night with the Cowboys and the Seahawks. And then we're going to get right into our Week 13 preview of games. We have a full slate. It should be a great weekend of football. So we're going to get right into it. Now, Thursday night was a really entertaining game. Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys showed out. I did not expect this type of a game. 35-41. The Cowboys get the win at home. They move to 9-3. The Seahawks, they dropped to 6-6. Now, the story was the Cowboys could not beat a winning team. Well, they put all that noise to rest as they took care of business 41-35. Now, it wasn't easy. Seattle brought their A game. They came in. Geno Smith looked great. He had 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. Zach Charbonnet, he had 19 carries for 60 yards and a touchdown against that stout run defense of the Cowboys. But DK Metcalf had a breakout game. 6 receptions, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dallas didn't have an answer for DK. But Seattle did not have an answer for CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, 12 receptions, 116 yards, a touchdown. He got busy. Pollard had 20 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown. And then Dak was just being Dak at home. They are still undefeated at AT&T Park, or AT&T Stadium. AT&T Park is the old San Francisco Giants name for Pac-Bell Park, which is now Oracle Park. But that's just my Bay Area roots coming out. But AT&T Stadium, the Dallas Cowboys are undefeated this year. Dak went 29 for 41, 299 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and he made it happen when it counted. To me, this game showed that Dallas is really, a top contender. Now, we know that they stumbled against Philly, a really tough team. Philadelphia is 10-1, and they lost to the 49ers, and that was kind of a really rough loss. But and then they stumbled again to the Cardinals, an inferior team. But other than that, they've really bullied. We've called them bullies. We've called them pretenders. We've called them a lot of things. But the Dallas Cowboys, bottom line, are really a good team. They really are. And as now we're 12 games into the season, they're 9-3, and they've proven to me that they're a really good team. So shout out to my boy, Tony. Hey, I got you, bro. These Cowboys are for real. They are a contender. They're one of the top teams in the NFL and in the NFC. Now, it's going to be tough because you have really a 3-headed monster in the NFC right now. You have Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Dallas. Now, Dallas has not beat either one of those 2 teams yet. So in order for Dallas to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to go through one or maybe both of those teams. And, that's only time will tell if that can happen. But if I'm a part of Cowboy Nation right now, for all you fans out there from Cowboy Nation, you have something really to be excited about. And on the flip side, the Seattle Seahawks, they are now 6-6. They're 2-4 away. Geno Smith, the last couple of weeks, has kind of left us wondering what's really going on. Is this the Geno that we were all expecting to come out at some point? But he answered those questions. He played really well against the Cowboys on Thursday night. He did a great job. Couldn't ask more from him. He did everything in his power to win. The defense just could not stop this high-powered Cowboys offense. And DK Metcalf, 6 receptions, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns on 8 targets. That has to be very, very encouraging for the Seattle Seahawks fans. Geno looks like he's getting it together. The connection with DK was great. But I think the real shining star here in this offense, something that Seattle fans have been waiting for, they're starting to see right before their eyes Jackson, Smith, and Jiba mature into a really, really quality wide receiver. He had 7 receptions, 11 targets, 62 yards. He did a great job. You know, this rookie is really coming into his own. That's something to be excited about. Hopefully, the injury to Kenneth Walker III isn't too serious and they can get him back sooner than later. But in the interim, Zach Charbonnet, another rookie, he ran hard. He looked good. He did what they asked him to do. 19 for 60 is not a great line. 3.2 yards per carry is not a great line, but he did get in the end zone and he did make Dallas have to think about that run, which opens up the passing game and Geno Smith. So all in all, it was a really entertaining game. Dallas just came through. They got it done. They defended home court and they move on next week. And so they're 9-3. Great game. Good job by the Cowboys. And that was your Thursday night recap. One of the most entertaining games of the season by far. Okay. Week 13, first game on the slate. We have the New Orleans Saints and the Detroit Lions. Detroit travels to New Orleans. So what's going on with this game? You know, you have two teams here that are actually going kind of in opposite directions. The New Orleans Saints, their record is 5-6. They're 2-2 at home, and Detroit is 8-3, coming off of a bad loss on Thanksgiving. But I think that Detroit is going to win this game. The over-under on the game is 46.5, and Detroit's favored by 4.5 points. Now, all year long, New Orleans hasn't done much to impress me. They're 5-6, and they're tied for first place in their division. So that tells you about their division. It's not a great division. The players to really look at in this game, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's 8,500, a little expensive, but he has a decent matchup here. Alvin Kamara is 8,300, and these are all FanDuel prices. He's 8,300. He averages 16.5 fantasy points per game. He has a decent matchup here against the position. Detroit's ranked 14th, so they're right in the middle of the row against running backs. David Montgomery, lately, his carries have dropped some because of the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs. He had 12 carries, and then 15 carries last week in Thanksgiving. But he's always a good play. I still like David Montgomery. I still think that Coach Campbell, likes the hard-nosed running game, and he's 7,800. Jahmyr Gibbs is right behind him at 7,700. Jahmyr Gibbs gives you more of a dynamic and explosive player and big play potential. So all these players are totally fair game, able to use. Like I said, St. Brown's a little expensive, and so is Kamara. I don't know if I'm paying 8,300 for Kamara this week. I'd probably fade him. I may take David Montgomery, but as we go along through these games, I'll let you know exactly who I would take at running back. Jared Goff at $7,600 is not a bad price. He's going against the 11th ranked defense against this position. And Chris Olave is out with a concussion right now. He's questionable with a concussion. He would have this is a favorable matchup because Detroit can't stop anyone in the air. 31st against wide receivers in the league. So Chris Olave would be a good play if he gets out of protocol, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen. We're doing this on Saturday, and he still has not cleared. So we'll have to see how that works for Chris Olave. Other than that, Sam Laporta is $7,000. That's very high for a tight end. Taysom Hill, 6,500, but with him, you never know what you're going to get. Rashid Shaheed has already been ruled out with a thigh injury. So if Olave doesn't play and Shaheed doesn't play, I'm not sure where you're going to go. You probably could find some value if Olave's out and Shaheed's out with A.T. Perry. He's only 5,700. So if you're trying to round out your offense, A.T. Perry would not be a bad play this week because I've seen him play. He plays great. Big play kid. And they're going to have to pass it to someone. If their number one and number two are out, then someone else is going to be 1 and 2. Michael Thomas is already out. We know about that. So A.T. Perry could be a sneaky play. Lynn Bowden Jr., he's only $5,200. He's going to see some more time. So, and Marquise Callaway will probably see more time. And he's only 5,000. There could be some sneaky plays from the wide receiver end in this game on New Orleans side. I like Detroit to get out of this with the win. And like I said, I like St. Brown. The price is a little hefty, but you sometimes you just can't go wrong. You have to pay up. I will say this. Coach Campbell came out and said that he really wants to get Jameson Williams involved more in the offense. And so Jameson Williams could be a sneaky play, $5,200 on FanDuel. Just keep that in mind. He could be a sneaky play at wide receiver. The next game we're going to get into is the Atlanta Falcons and the New York Jets. The Atlanta Falcons and New York Jets, the Jets have been kind of a mess this year. It seems like they've been sitting around just waiting for Aaron Rodgers. And that's just not the way to go about it. They've already announced that Tim Boyle will get his second start. I don't know if that's good. I wasn't too impressed with Tim Boyle. Atlanta's a 2-point favorite on the road in New York. Atlanta's not much better, but Tim Boyle does have a favorable matchup this week. Atlanta's 26th against the position, against quarterbacks. They rank 26th in the league. So there should be some opportunity for Tim Boyle here to get it to Garrett Wilson. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'd fade any Jet in this game, even Brees. Brees has not performed well. He has a lingering hamstring injury right now. He's 6,700 on FanDuel. I would fade him. Bijan Robinson at $8,100. He's going against a 32nd ranked rush defense against that position. They are ranked 32nd. So Bijan could very well have a great day, a big day. And Arthur Smith did get him the rock 16 times last game. Now, if that continues, Bijan is a no-brainer in this game at 8,100. My only question is Arthur Smith. But like I said before in the last podcast, I have to stop worrying about these coaches and what they're going to do, and I have to bet on talent. I definitely would lean towards using Bijan Robinson this week against that Jet defense. He's 8,100 in FanDuel. Other than that, I'm not really too thrilled about much. The Jets are pretty stout against receivers and against the passing game. So Drake London's going to have a tough day with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. And so I probably would fade their receivers. If I would use anyone in this game, it would be Bijan Robinson. The next game on the slate is the New England Patriots and the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, you all know how I feel about New England. You know how I feel about Belichick. New England's just a bad team this year. Bottom line, there's no words to mix here. So I'm fading everyone on New England. And Ramondre Stevenson might be the only one that I'd run out there. He has a very favorable matchup. The Chargers are 26th against the position. So Ramondre could have a really big day if he gets the rock. He had 21 carries last game. He had 20 carries the game before that. 98 yards, 88 yards. He got a touchdown last week, 19 fantasy points. if they continue to give him the ball like this and he has this many opportunities, it's a no-brainer at 7,300. That's a great bargain. That's a great price. I'm not going to say a bargain, but that's a great price for a running back at his caliber against that defense. That's probably the only Patriot that I would seriously look at. Justin Herbert, on the other hand, is $8,200. I think you could find better value somewhere else at the quarterback position. New England is ranked 9th against the position. So they do have a top 10 defense against quarterbacks. And Justin Herbert, he does a great job. Last week, he was 29 of 44 for 217 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had a 14.38 fantasy points, and that was against that tough, stout Raven defense. So he's going on the road against New England, and it could be a tough game for him. I probably would fade him too. Austin Eckler, New England's not great against the run. They're 17th in the league. Austin Eckler, 8,000. That's not that bad. You can go ahead and try him, but Staley is an idiot. So you got to be careful. The only player that I'd feel comfortable with would be Keenan Allen out of this offense. But the problem with Keenan Allen this week is he's dealing with quadriceps injury, and he is listed as questionable. So keep an eye on that, because after him, it just falls off. If he doesn't play, New England could win this game, which sounds crazy. But if Keenan Allen does not play, New England could win this game, because Quentin Johnson has proven so far through 12 games of this season that he's not really ready to be an NFL wide receiver at any high caliber. He's learning on the job, and it's tough. I get it. But he's not a wide receiver 1. He's not even a wide receiver 2. So if Keenan Allen doesn't play, I would fade this whole game, other than possibly Ramondre Stevenson. I like the Chargers to get the win if Allen plays, but it says the forecast is rainy, and you just never know. This could be a trap game. The Chargers have not, fared well in these types of games. The Chargers are 4-7. The Patriots are 2-9. These are two pretty bad teams, period. I mean, they're bad teams. So you can flip a coin. Chargers are favored by 5.5 to win this. The over-under on the game is 39.5. It's probably going to be a tough, sloppy game. So I probably would fade this whole game. Possibly Ramondre Stevenson would be the only one I would go for. The next game on the slate are the Arizona Cardinals. They travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, the 7-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm just surprised that Pittsburgh is 7-4. They just keep getting it done. Their division is kind of weak this year. And I know you may say, well, they have the Ravens in there. They have the Bengals in there. Other than the Ravens, the Browns are in there. So it should be a tough division. But for some reason, these guys are able to be 7-4 in that division. The Browns have been decimated with injury. The Ravens are playing well. They're probably the cream of that crop. But for some reason, the Steelers just keep winning. They're 7-4. I don't know how they keep doing it, but they do. So I can't, fault them for that. Who would I look at for FanDuel in this particular game? Najee Harris has a really good matchup. Recently, it seems like Najee has been running a little harder. He had 15 carries for 99 yards last week and a touchdown. Ever since Jaylen Warren has been getting more and more play, Najee has kind of stepped up his game. And if you're a Steelers fan, you like seeing that, because you need a healthy and a strong Najee. He's 7,200. That's a fair price. The Cardinals are 29th against the run. So their defense really isn't doing much. As far as the wide receivers from Pittsburgh, I would just fade them, even at their bargain prices. Deontay Johnson's only 6,800. George Pickens is only 6,600. But Kenny Pickett's just bad. So you're not going to get much there. unless this is the one lightning game that he decides to do things well and his receivers flourish. I'm not banking on that. That wouldn't be wise. Kyler Murray on the road, we'll get to see what he does on the road. Since he's come back, he's averaging 20.45 fantasy points on FanDuel, which is great. He's only $7,700. He is a quarterback that you could look at, but because of the lack of weapons that he has, and Trey McBride has a groin injury, I probably would fade this entire game. Even Najee. Najee would be probably the only one I may play, and maybe Jalen Warren at 6,500. But other than that, I'd probably just fade this entire game. Stay away from it. It's not going to be a nice game. It's going to be kind of an ugly game. And so it's not a fantasy dream. The next game on the slate is the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. The Colts travel to Tennessee. The Colts are 6-5. The Titans are 4-7. And the Titans just really have fallen off. Their quarterback play has gone way down. We were hoping that Will Levis would show us something. He just hasn't. The over and under on this game is 42.5 points. And Tennessee is a dog here by a point. So Indy is a point favorite. Now, this game could be, as far as fantasy is concerned, there's some players in this game that you really could target and go after. So let's get at it right now. If you haven't heard, Jonathan Taylor is out. He has a thumb injury, so he's out. So that instantly puts Zach Moss into play. Zach Moss is only $5,600 this week. That's a steal. I'll tell you right now, Zach Moss is probably going to make my FanDuel lineup this week. At $5,600, if when he gets the rock, when Taylor was out and Zach Moss was playing, he was playing at a high level. And, at $5,600, that's a steal. You probably could put him in at the end of your lineup at the flex position and have a big ceiling there. The floor would probably be kind of low and the ceiling kind of high. Zach Moss would be a great play. Derrick Henry going against this Indy defense. Indy's 21st against the run. Derrick Henry also could be a great play. He's $8,200 though. Kind of expensive. I'm not sure if I would play Derrick Henry. I'd probably fade him in this particular game. And then if you look at the quarterback position, I'm not thrilled with Gardner Minshew this week, even though the matchup is favorable. Will Levis, he's got to show me something before I would even think of him. Wide receiver wise, Michael Pittman, he's a very favorable matchup. Tennessee is 26th against the position. Pittman's been balling. He's averaging 12.39 points per game. He still hasn't had a huge game. And so he is due for a huge game, but he's very consistent, but he's starting to move up there in price. $7,900 is kind of pricey for him. Josh Downs is only $6,100, which he's moved up too in price over the week. Last week he had 13 targets, but with only 5 receptions though. So it kind of worries me that Gardner Minshew is not getting these guys the ball where they need it. And, Chig, you could look at Chig, 4,800. That's a steal at tight end. Indianapolis is 11th against the position, so they're not too bad at that. I started this off by saying maybe this is a game that you can get into for fantasy, but after I look at everything, I'm not sure. D-Hop is $7,000, and you can always take a flyer on him. Him and Levis has shown that they do have some chemistry, but Levis is really going to have to do well. I wouldn't bank on that if you're trying to win a tournament or a cash game. I wouldn't bank on either one of these teams in my fantasy lineup. The only one, like I said, that I probably would be okay playing would be Zach Moss, because Zach Moss has a favorable matchup, and if he gets the rock 20 times, he'll deliver for you for sure. The next game on the slate is the Broncos and the Texans. This could be a kind of an interesting game. Um, Denver is 6-5. They're on a 5-game winning streak, and they've just been rolling. They have just been rolling. They were 1-5 this year. Now they're 6-5. They're rolling. They've beat some good teams too. And Houston is also 6-5. They dropped their last game to the Jaguars last week. The over-under in this game is 47.5, which is one of the highest overs this for this weekend. Houston is a 3-point favorite, and they are at home. This is a game that you definitely can get into. Tank Dell has a calf injury, probably a game time decision. So monitor that. Make sure that you know what's going on with him before you put him in. He had limited practices on Thursday and Friday, but he is expected to play. But Tank Dell is $8,200, and believe it or not, Houston's defense has really come a long way against wide receivers. They are ranked 4th against the position now. After that 70-point debacle against Miami, they've brought it all the way back to where they're the 4th ranked defense against wide receivers. That's really good. CJ Stroud is 8,000, and CJ Stroud right now is putting himself in a position where you can always just plug him in. Even at 8,000, that's a good deal. He's averaging 20.66 points per game, and he's going against the 17th ranked defense against that position. Nico Collins is $7,600, and he came off of a big game last week with Jacksonville. Russell Wilson, $7,400, going against the 27th ranked defense. Now, Houston gives up a lot of fantasy points to quarterbacks. This could be a sneaky play this week. You really could start your lineup with Russell Wilson and a Cortland Sutton and be okay running them out there. Now, I'm not saying that that's what I would do, but you could do that. 27th against the position. Houston's defense is not good against quarterbacks, and it just seems like Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos are really beginning to figure themselves out on the offensive end. Devin Singletary is 7,000, and he has a great matchup here against Denver. Denver ranks 31st in the league against the run. So Singletary could be a nice play. That's a fair deal for him because, Dameon Pierce just has not really played much. Dameon Pierce last week, who was eligible to play, and he played, only got 5 rushing attempts. So unless something has changed, it looks like Pierce has lost his starting position to Singletary. And Singletary has shown that he's been the better back this year. And that's kind of sad because Pierce is really good. He's just having trouble with this offense for some reason. Javonte Williams, it's only 6,600. Once again, he's a good play going against the 24th ranked defense at the position. But Javonte really has not been a fantasy football juggernaut. He had 18 rushes last week for 65 yards, and he only had 8 fantasy points, 8.6 fantasy points. He's not getting in the end zone. And it could be the way that Sean Payton is running his offense down around the goal line. Noah Brown is questionable, but I think he's expected to play this week. And yeah, he is expected to play this week. So that adds to it, to that offense. Noah Brown's much cheaper than the other two, than Nico and Tank. He's only 6,400. But like I said, that Denver defense is pretty stout. Dalton Schultz is out with the hamstring injury. That brings in Andrew Beck, which will be his backup, or Brevin Jordan. Well, they'll probably split carries, split offensive plays. 4,400 and 4,300. Those are bargains against a really weak team against defense, against tight end. So maybe an Andrew Beck. If you're building your defense and you're just saying, screw it, I'm just going to go cheap on tight end, look to the Houston offense for your tight end. Out of this game, I would definitely, I'd play Stroud still. I'd play Nico or Tank, one of the two. You could start Russell Wilson. Devin Singletary, you can have him in your lineup. Cortland Sutton, you can have him in your lineup. Jerry Jeudy is only 6,000. He hasn't had a great year. He's due. So there are some players from this game that you can, look to. It should be a fairly good fantasy game. Next game on the slate is the Miami Dolphins and the Washington Commanders. Miami is 8-3, an offensive juggernaut. Washington is 4-8, and their coach is on the hot seat for sure. It's no surprise that Miami is a 9-point favorite, and the over-under in this game is 49.5. Now, why is the over and under so high? Well, that's because Miami is an offensive juggernaut. They expect Miami to score a lot of points in this game. And with Sam Howell on the other side, he's averaging 19.22 fantasy points per game. So that's pretty good. Tua's only averaging 18.28. Both defenses are bad. Washington's 30 last in the league against receivers, last in the league against quarterback. Miami's 23rd in the league against quarterback, and Miami is 24th in the league against receiver. So Tyreek Hill, 10,000. That's a hefty price to pay. If you want to pay up, sometimes you pay up for Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle, 7,800. That's the better bargain, but Tyreek probably has the better boom ability. Terry McLaurin is only 6,700, and that's a great deal. Curtis Samuel, 6,200. He's been getting a lot of targets lately. It seems like him and Sam Howell have some chemistry. So you can always look at him. But I like Jahan Dotson. I really do. Jahan Dotson's only 5,900. He stays consistent with his targets and his catches. He hasn't had a huge game this season. He had a 20-point game against Philadelphia. But other than that, he's been kind of quiet. But at $5,900, just getting in this game, that wouldn't be bad at all. You can also look at Tua in this game. He's 8,400, a little expensive, and Sam Howell, 7,500. Maybe this is the week to run Sam Howell out there. Pair him up with maybe a Jahan Dotson, run it back with Tyreek. You probably could afford that in this scenario. So it should be a really entertaining game. Raheem Mostert is $8,400, very expensive. But the exciting part is Devin Achane is back. He's only $7,400. They are 30th against the position. Devin Achane might make my FanDuel lineup this week for sure. Brian Robinson is only $6,800. Jeff Williams Jr. is $5,500. Achane's probably the one that I would target in this game. Also, I like Miami to win this game. But those are the guys that I would be looking at. I'd probably, like I said, if you want to start Hal, you could run it back with Tyreek. You can have Jahan Dotson and probably Achane and have 4 players in this game and have a good shot at some high points and some things really, really happening in this one. The next game on the slate is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. This division is just bad. Tampa Bay is 4-7. The Panthers are 1-10. And Tampa Bay is favored by 3.5 at home. Over-under is 36.5. I'll just say this, I don't want to waste much of your time, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Mike Evans is $8,300, but the Panthers have a really tough defense against wide receiver. Rashad White is $7,500, and Carolina's bad against running backs. So if you want to pay up and go with Mike Evans and bet on talent, you could do that, $8,300. Rashad White's a better value at $7,500, and running back Adam Thielen running it back against Tampa Bay is a great, he's at a great price point, $7,000. He's averaging 12.53 fantasy points per game, and Tampa Bay is 29th against the position. I would not play Baker Mayfield or Bryce Young at all. Chris Godwin is questionable, and they're not sure if he's going to play. So he's probably more of a game time decision, and he has a neck injury. So I would not count on him. Chuba Hubbard had a good game last week. He had 17 fantasy points, but I wouldn't count on that happening again because this Tampa Bay defense is kind of stout against the run. All in all, other than Evans and White and Thielen, I'm probably fading this game altogether. Like I said, the over-under is 36.5, and they're just two bad teams. They're not very good teams. So when you have bad teams, you probably shouldn't invest a whole lot of capital in your fantasy lineup for those teams. The next game on the slate is the Philadelphia Eagles. This is probably the most anticipated game of the season. Philadelphia versus San Francisco. The Eagles are at home. They're 10-1. They're 5-0 at home. The 49ers are 8-3. And since losing that game, they've run off a good string of wins, and they're looking good. They're back on top. And they are actually favored by 3 on the road against Philadelphia. The over-under is 47.5. Many people think that this is going to be the NFC Championship game. And I wouldn't, argue with someone if they said that, because these are right now, hands down, the best 2 teams in the NFC. They really are. What the 49ers have done with their defense to shore it up, their defensive line has been great. And we'll say this again, the Eagles are still not playing at their peak, and they're 10-1. So it's going to be real, real scary when the Eagles figure it out. But this week they're going to have to figure something out because they're playing against a real tough San Francisco 49er team. Christian McCaffrey is $9,800. The Philadelphia Eagles are the number 1 ranked defense against the run. So this could be a long day for Christian, but McCaffrey is one of those players that he's defenseless. You can play him against any defense, and he's still going to cash for you. $9,800 is a lot of money, though. I don't know if the value's there this week, but I would not be scared to run Christian McCaffrey out there. Jalen Hurts is $9,000, and he's going against the 3rd-ranked defense against the position. But like McCaffrey, he's also one of those guys that you can just play, and it doesn't matter. But this is going to be a tough matchup for him. A.J. Brown could have some big plays in this one because the Niners do give up big plays to wide receivers. They're ranked 15th in the league against the position. A.J. Brown is at $8,400. That's a fair price point for him. You probably get value if you ran him out there. All 3 of these players I would consider putting in my lineup, even at that price point. Brandon Ayuk is for sure, but he's $8,000. So he's kind of expensive, but the matchup is a for sure matchup. He's going against the 28th ranked defense against the position. The Eagles give up a lot of points, fantasy points, to wide receivers. Ayuk is averaging 14.6 points per game. Devonta Smith is $7,700. And he's a good value also, and he's starting to come around a little more. Brock Purdy going against a 25th ranked defense at $7,800. That's not a bad play. He's not a bad play. I mean, this game is loaded with guys that you can run out there. George Kittle, $7,400. The problem with Kittle, even though he's going against a defense that's weak against the position, they're ranked 20th against position. Because when Debo got back, Kittle suffers. Kittle doesn't have big games often when he and Debo share the field, or one of them will have a big game and the other won't. You just never know whose week it is. George Kittle costs $7,400. Very expensive for a tight end that you're not sure what you're going to get. He's only averaging 10.9 points per game. And the reason for that is because some games you'll have 20 points and other games you have 6 or 3. So that can happen with him. Debo Samuel has a great matchup. I would run him out there for $7,300. I have no problem running him out there against this defense because they use Debo in so many different ways. They run him, they pass it to him. Um, he's just a dual threat. DeAndre Swift is going to have a tough day against the second ranked defense against the run. So you have the number one defense against the run in the Eagles. You have the number two defense against the run in the Niners. So that probably tells me I'm not going to run running backs out in this game, even though, like I said, McCaffrey, if you want to spend the 9,800, go ahead. He could probably still get you 20 points. DeAndre Swift, I'm not sure if that will happen with him, though. He's capable of it, but his price range is way better. He's only $6,700. So this should be a great game. This should be the game of the week. At tight end, Jack Stoll is backing up Dallas Goedert, and he really has done nothing since Dallas has been out. I like the 49ers to go ahead and get this done. I like them to go on the road and to get it done against the Eagles. I think the Niners are better than the Bills, and I think that the Niners defense is much better. It should be a great game. This will be the first time we see both these teams when they're fully healthy, and so it should be a great game. I like the 49ers in this game. Next game on the slate is the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns are 7-4, and kind of like the Steelers, man, they're 7-4. But the difference is Cleveland has lost an all-star running back in Nick Chubb, and they lost their quarterback in Deshaun Watson. And they're still out there doing it with defense, and, Jerome Ford's doing okay. They've kind of used a couple quarterbacks and tried to get some good play out of the quarterback position. The Rams are a 4-point favorite in this game, which kind of surprises me. They're 5-6 at home. And I think the reason they're favored is because I don't think Vegas thinks that the Browns can score. And the over-under is 40. And everyone knows that the Rams can score. Now, if we look at this game a little closer, though, from a fantasy perspective, it kind of gets a little muddy when you think about it. Kieran Williams came back last week and just destroyed. And so he's 8,500, very expensive to run out there, but you almost just say Sean McVay figures out a way to get this guy the ball. You have to run with him, even though Cleveland's defense is ranked 5th against the position. Puka Nacua is $7,200. Cleveland's defense is first against wide receivers. Cooper Kupp is $7,100, and Cooper Kupp has not looked good since he's come back. He's had a couple of games. His first 2 games back, he looked good, and since then, he's just been getting banged up and dinged, and he's really not looking good. I would not spend $7,100 on Cooper Kupp this week or Puka Nacua. Matthew Stafford, $6,900 going against the number 1 ranked defense against that position. That defense sacks the quarterback a lot. So look for Matthew Stafford to be running for his life. I don't know why, the Rams are favored, but like I said, I think it's because Vegas doesn't think that Cleveland can score. Amari Cooper is only $6,700. That's a great value for Amari Cooper this week against the 19th ranked defense against the position. Jerome Ford, $6,400 against the 11th ranked defense at the position. The Browns elevated Joe Flacco from the practice squad this week, and they say that he is going to start Sunday against the Rams. Now, Flacco hasn't played in a while. It's been over a year since he's played. He actually has a pretty favorable matchup against the Rams. So, I wouldn't start Flacco, but with Flacco starting, to me, I think that can't hurt Amari Cooper. But the question is the rust. He hasn't played in a while. Is he going to be rusty? Is Aaron Donald going to get after him? I like the Rams in this game, and I like Kieran Williams. I'd probably play Amari Cooper at that price point and Jerome Ford. Other than that, I'm probably fading the rest of this. This Tyler Higbee is only $5,400, which is great. And Juku is only $5,600, which is a great price point. And the Rams are 29th against that position. But other than those two guys, I'm probably not trusting much. I may play the Cleveland Browns defense, and I may play the Rams defense too, because 4,100 and 3,700. The Rams defense is 3,700. This might be the defensive play of the week because Flacco, you never know what you're going to get. Aaron Donald, those guys getting after him. The 26th ranked offense. This could be a good deal. 3,700 for the defense for the Rams. That could be the play of the week. Getting into our next game is our Sunday night game. This could be a tough game for young Jordan Love. The Green Bay Packers are at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. Green Bay's 5-6. The Chiefs are 8-3. Patrick Mahomes comes into town and he's ready to fire. He's always ready. Sunday night primetime game, 42.5 is the over under. Now, the Chiefs defense is really a good defense. They get after you. For Jordan Love, this could be a very, very difficult night. Jordan Love is 7,300 on FanDuel. He averages 18.91 points per game, and he's facing the 5th ranked defense against the position. He's going to have his hands full this week. As of right now, the game time temperature is like 35 degrees, so it's going to be pretty cold. It's going to be pretty cold over there. I think that Green Bay is going to have to really work hard if they want to come out of this one with the win. The Kansas City Chiefs are 6-point favorites, but from a fantasy perspective, I probably would not play Love this week. AJ Dillon will be playing because Aaron Jones is out with the MCL, and so he's out. So AJ Dillon's going to get the start there. The Chiefs are 6th against the run. If you just look at this on paper, it really says that the Chiefs should really win this handedly. But the Packers have looked so much better. Last week, that was the case too. Everyone thought that on Thanksgiving, the Detroit Lions were going to destroy the Green Bay Packers. And that did not happen. The Packers went in. They had a great game plan. They executed. And the kid, Jordan Love, looked really, really good. He got some good play out of his receivers. Christian Watson finally had a game. So if they can duplicate that or replicate that, if he does, that really helps them. Christian Watson looks like he's starting to come around a little bit. Romeo Doubs. So if the Green Bay Packers can just execute their game plan, they can make this a game. Because on the other side, the Chiefs really don't have a great offense, which is crazy. We're talking about the Chiefs' defense. We're not talking about Mahomes and all his weapons, because you know what? He doesn't have those weapons anymore. He has Travis Kelce, and Travis Kelce is $8,000, but he has a very favorable matchup. So you may pay up to get Kelce this week. Tucker Kraft is going to be the tight end for the Packers. He's only 4,800. But Kansas City plays pretty good against tight ends. They're second in the league against the position. Patrick Mahomes is 8,300. You can't ever go wrong going with Patrick Mahomes. He is averaging only 19.83 points per game. And the Packers defense is ranked 18th against the position. So you could run Patrick Mahomes out there. I think that the only path for Green Bay to win this game is they're going to have to execute their game plan. They're going to have to keep Kansas City's offense off the field and tire out the defense. So what do you do? How do you do that? You do it by short passes and you do it by the running game. So A.J. Dillon's going to have a good game here in order for the Packers to have a chance to win. Isaiah Pacheco is a good play here. He's going against the 27th ranked defense against the position. And so he's only 7,500. He's a very good play Sunday night. I think that you could go with Rashee Rice. He's only 6,100. Great value against the 18th ranked defense against that position. And then, like I said, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. You can go with those guys. I would not play Jordan Love in this game. I may run it back with, if Reed is okay, I may run it back with Reed, possibly Christian Watson or Romeo Dobbs, maybe, you know. And as far as running, I'm not sure if I'm running A.J. Dillon out there this week. I'd play Pacheco. I like Kansas City to go ahead and get this job done. Mike, I know you're out there listening, buddy. I want to just say, yeah, the Packers can get this done, but they're going to have to run the ball and they're going to have to do short passes. They're going to have ball control if they want to beat Kansas City on Sunday night. They're going to have to really execute their game plan the same way that they did against Detroit. But it can be done because this Kansas City Kansas City team is not a juggernaut that they used to be. Even though they have their great all-star in Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, other than that, they're kind of just an average team. So they are very, very beatable, and it is going to be on the road. It's going to be very cold, but I still like Kansas City to come out of this one with the win. And rounding out our Week 13 games is the Monday night contest between the Cincinnati Bengals and Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, when this was set on the schedule, this was going to be a great game. This had all the makings of a great game. Late into the season, a lot of fantasy playoff implications. Over under should have been really high. Well, now you have Jacksonville as a 9.5 point favorite, and the over under is 39.5. It's not like what we would have expected, and we all know why. It's because Joe Burrow is not in this game. Joe Burrow is hurt. And Cincinnati runs different without Joe. That's just plain and simple. Jamar Chase is going against the 27th ranked defense at the position. He should feast in this game. Even with Jake Browning, Jamar Chase should still feast in this game. He's only $7,900 on FanDuel. That's pretty cheap. I would play Jamar Chase. Travis Etienne, he's kind of injured, hobbling around with ribs, and he's questionable for the game, for the Monday night's game. So keep an eye on him. I don't like Travis after what he did to me last week. He's overpriced, $8,700. I would not touch Travis Etienne. Trevor Lawrence is a good play this week, $7,900, fair price. Then you have Calvin Ridley at $7,400 or Christian Kirk at $6,900. They seem to alternate. The last couple of weeks, Ridley has really come into his own and started looking like the Ridley that we all drafted in the third round. But Christian Kirk has been the more consistent one all year. Ridley's averaging 11.32 fantasy points per game. Kirk, 10.78. Is this just an illusion? Are we just thinking that Christian Kirk is really averaging, like being more consistent? 10.9, 6.3, 11.4, 6.6, 16. It's almost like he had a good run of like 5 games where he had double digits in points. And then since then, he's going every other game. And if you go by that, if you go by the every other game, scenario, Christian Kirk should have the game this week, and it should be a down week for Ridley. But Ridley has put together really good games, 3 out of the last 4 games. So it'd be hard to turn your head against Ridley. At $7,400, he's still a good price. Joe Mixon just looked bad last week, and hopefully he can get his mojo back. He's going against the 16th ranked defense at the position, and he's only $7,200, so he wouldn't be a bad play, but I'm not sure if I'm trusting Joe. Cincinnati does need to get this running game going, though. And it's the first bad game Joe's had in about 5 games. So I'd cut him some slack there. He had a bad game against a rival. the Steelers, and that can always happen. Against this Jacksonville defense, I think Joe will have a better game, so I wouldn't be scared to run him out there at $7,200. And Jake Browning, I'm probably going to fade Jake Browning, even though he's $6,500, but I'm just going to fade him altogether. T. Higgins is back. He's only $6,200. And you notice all the receivers for Cincinnati are low in price because they don't have the quarterback. Jake Browning is not, by any stretch of the imagination, Joe Burrow. I'm going to go with Cincinnati, even though everything is telling me that Jacksonville should win this game. They're highly favored. I just like Cincinnati to come in and get the upset. I think Browning will get it done. Hopefully Chase can have a big game. It should be a very entertaining Monday night game, but I like Cincinnati in this one. So that wraps up our Week 13 preview. Hopefully you got something out of this that's going to help you build your lineups and maybe even win some cash this weekend on FanDuel or DraftKings. Thanks for listening. I'm Lonnie, and I'll catch you on the next one.